Go.
We rolling. So we are back for the Wednesday well check. How you doing, Rachel? I'm doing good. You may want to. I sent Candy the link, but I don't know if she was having trouble getting in.
Okay.
Uh, so today we're back. We're back with the well check. I think did we skip last week?
Yes.
Well, we did. Yeah, we skipped last week, and I'm feeling it. We had So we talked about, March is Stress Awareness Month. And, so last month we started with the life stress checks so we can see, how we're doing, understanding like the levels of stress based on the different life stress events that we were experiencing, whether they were negative, whether they were positive. So if you were at that low, moderate, or high stress level, and thinking about ways, depending on where you are, where you can find moments to relieve some of that stress. And so for me, like we talked about before, I was at the moderate. So I was like 1 point away from being high stress. Nick was on overload. I think Trisha, you were in the middle. You were in the middle. Rachel, I know you were high, and there was a couple other folks on the call that were in that high stress load area as well. But Nick and I were having a really interesting conversation because so we have talked about this before. So as a clinician, for me, it's really important to make sure that I'm taking those pauses or having those mindful minutes in between sessions to release stress. I've shared many times in sessions, how when I end my day, when I go home, how I have one of my practices is that when I go home, I usually take a detox shower. And so anything that has a salt component is really good for drawing out, any kind of toxins or any, like heavier weighted negative energy that you want to release. And so that's one thing that I've been doing for a very long time. If I can't, actually take a bath, it's like, okay, let me just do that salt bath, that salt shower, and just imagining that I'm, just kind of washing away and scrubbing off the energy from the day. So sometimes when I'm, in session, there are, depending on the amount of energy or the intensity of the session, I literally can get physically sick. And so yesterday was one of those times where we had a couple of different things going on, but I had a meeting where it was very weighted and I ended up getting sick. And so I canceled my day. And so today, I'm better, but it's like, are you coming down with something? Like, energetically, like what's going on? So Nick and I just kind of talked about, why it's important to take the pauses, especially when you have things going on, to make sure you're doing the things that you need to do to take care of yourself. So what came up for me last night is today we're going to talk about those transition rituals, right? So we understand that those are really important. Those are things that I'm, really passionate about. Like I said before, those mindful minutes are actually transition rituals, right? So me taking that detox shower, that is a transition ritual. And so essentially what we're going to just kind of lean into what that means, and how we can use those to release stress and transition from one situation to the next. Okay. But before we lean into that, we just want to take a moment and pause. Just go ahead and settle and allow for yourself to fall into your normal pattern of breathing. We're just simply noticing the air flow in and flow out. And I just want you to take a second and set your intention for one word of how you want to be present in this space today. So whatever pops into your mind, whether it's a word or a phrase, take one big cleansing breath in and release. just allow for yourself to come into the well and come back to the space. Okay. So, like I just mentioned before we took a moment to set our intention, we just want to talk about understanding what the transition rituals are. So, the transition rituals are just intentional and repeated acts that we engage in to help us to shift from one thing to the next. It could be a transition ritual that is helping you to transition from, waking up in the morning to how you start your day. It could be, something that you do in terms of how you are arriving into the workspace. It could be, one task to another, one place to another, but something that you do repeatedly that is setting your intention for what you want things to be. Whether you want to open up space to release some things, or whether you want to open up some space to receive some things. And so the benefits of transition rituals is that they can aid us in being able to reduce stress and help with emotional regulation. It can just increase your awareness of what you're carrying. Just taking that pause to say, you know what, that was a bit much for me. So let me just take a moment, right? I'm always talking about taking a pause, pressing that pause button. That was a bit much for me. So let me just take a moment and breathe, meditate, try to visualize something, whatever I want to call into my mind's eye before I enter into a conversation, before I make dinner with my kids. Let me just be intentional about clearing space, right? And it can help you to feel more present and grounded when you're taking those moments to release and to engage in those rituals. It can help you to kind of snap back into your body or in the moment. And it can also help you to create a sense of control for the day. So one inconsistent transition ritual that I have is that usually in the mornings before I talk to anyone else, and y'all have heard me say this before, I try to talk to myself. So I want to be the first person that is laying that foundation of energy, of language, or anything that is going into my body before I pick up the phone and talk to my mother or engage with my sisters or whoever. It's like, let me make sure that I am laying the foundation. And so I found when I lean into that, I actually feel just more calm and grounded, as opposed to you picking up the phone and letting someone else's energy set the tone for how you're just feeling in the morning, right? So that's one example of a transition ritual. I already said before, doing those detox showers when I get home from sessions and when I'm washing myself, I'm imagining that all of the energy, all of the stories, all of the emotions, whatever I took in, whatever I participated in during that day, I'm just imagining that the water is washing all of those things down and is flowing down the drain and into the ground, almost serving as like a fertilizer for, how I'm stepping foot into the next phase of the day. Okay?
Hey Candy, welcome to the Wednesday Well Check.
Hello, thank you.
Hey, Candy, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
So what we were just talking about now is, last month we were leaning into those life stress checks, and folks were able to score to see where they landed on that stress check. And so we wanted to be intentional about talking to folks with how they can be proactive with managing the stress that they're taking in. So today what we're doing is we are leaning into transition rituals. So we just kind of, where we landed now was like we just talked about the definition of transition rituals, that they're the intentional and repeated acts that help you to transition from one activity to another or one place to another. And it's just really different things that you can do to ground yourself, to be more present, to clear space so you can hold space in different places in your life. And then also recognizing that transition rituals can help you to release stress, to feel more grounded in a number of different things. And so what I shared is that one of my transition rituals is taking that detox shower after my therapy sessions. And I also shared trying to be intentional about not talking to anyone else before I talk to myself upon waking. Okay? And so what I want you guys to do is I want you to take a moment and think about what are some of the transition rituals that you practice in your life that you can identify that I'm intentional about? Or are there some transition rituals that you never even thought about it in that way, or they're just things that you automatically do in the transition of things? You can either say it aloud or put it in the chat.
So, mine's for today. Number one, I'm feeling energetically calm, which
Okay.
is great.
Okay.
And then one of my transitional rituals would be to, at night, I've been trying to make sure I take my spiritual bath. So I'm playing my soft music, I'll light my candles, I'll light my incense, whether it's myrrh or something like that. And then I make sure I put like some type of relaxing oil, like whether it's peppermint, eucalyptus, in my bath water. And then I just sit and calm, and that's it.
Okay.
So, yep,
Okay.
that's to prepare me for getting up the next day.
Got to clear space so you can hold space for all the things you do in this space.
So for me, that I'm full of rituals, but my daily ritual, um, I transition from one space to the other. So on my way to work, I like to listen to music just to hype myself up
Mm-hmm.
to go into the office. And then on my way home, it's the same. And then I sit in the car in my garage for a brief time. For a brief time, usually about 30 to 45 minutes, just so I can transition back into my home space before I gotta let out the dogs and deal with the kids.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good one that you just brought up, that sitting in your car, especially for mothers, right? And I think that that's something, we don't always have to put these labels on things, but I think that it's important for you. Sometimes we don't understand the things that we're doing that actually are aiding in our healing and being grounded. We don't realize it until someone points it out. And I think that you hear a lot of moms are like, girl, I had to sit in the car for about 10 minutes, or I was standing behind a garage. I had to get myself together. And so I think that's beautiful that you pointed it out. And the fact that you can do it for 30 or 45 minutes, girl, that's...
Listen, as long as nobody see me or hear me, and it's hard with dogs, but you can tell when they really want something because they'll come outside and get me. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the days where I'm like, okay, I need to, take a break. But I typically do it for at least 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a condition I'm really on. Like, when I walk in the house, I need that moment for myself. Let me sit, do process, go upstairs, use the bathroom, which might be another 20 minutes, just sitting there scrolling, and then change my clothes. And then when I'm coming down, to make dinner or whatever, I'm prepared to take questions or help with homework or put on a fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Anyone else? Any other transition rituals that we're recognizing that we lean into?
No, but I need to learn how to sit back
Mm-hmm.
and struggle with that part. Just, I do sit in the car every once in a while if I come home from work or in the morning when I do taking Maddie to school.
Mm-hmm.
I might sit in the car for like 20 minutes, but I'm coming in the house to just eat. And I know that I'm not going to do. I need to do what I say I'm going to do, and I never do it. So I'm just working on. I need to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, serious.
Mm-hmm. And you can start with something small. So, as I mentioned before, so even like in between therapy sessions, like taking those mindful minutes. And sometimes it's just a minute, right? So as therapists, we kind of build, you or anybody, if you're taking appointments, if you have clients, if you have patients or whatever, depending on how your day is set up, your meetings are set up, you may, be seeing folks back to back. And ideally, you want to have 10 to 20 minutes in between folks so you can kind of get yourself together. But sometimes it can just be just a minute, right? And then it's you're going from one thing to another. But there are times where, Nick will tell me, like, you need to take your minute. Like, you need to slow down, take a minute, and breathe, right? And so as we're thinking about how transition rituals actually support us with being able to be grounded and present in our lives, or ways that we may need to incorporate them into our life, I want us to think about release and let go prompt number 43. And it's asking us, how might practicing mindfulness support you in your journey of releasing and letting go? So that's just kind of deepening that purpose, deepening and bringing the question up of the purpose of transition rituals. So how might practicing mindfulness support you with being able, with that process or the journey of releasing and letting go? So how might practicing mindfulness support your journey of releasing and letting go?
May allow for more calm and release.
Right. So when you think of, just to make sure we're all on the same page, remember that mindfulness is about being present in the moment. It's about being in the here and now, not being in a place of judgment, but just understanding I am in this space. So we are in this space together. I'm sitting on the floor on these meditation cushions. There is no before or after. There is only this moment. And so when you think about what types of activities we engage in to allow for us to be mindful, think about how that will allow for you to release and let go of the stress that you are experiencing on your body from these different environments that we're navigating. Thinking about the energy that you are taking in and engaging from these experiences, right? Because you may have a meeting with a coworker and you walk away feeling tight and heavy in your body. And if you think about leaning into those transition rituals, if you think about practicing mindfulness, what does that offer you for the process of being able to release the energy and then let go of any of the judgments, the preconceived notions, the thoughts of anxiety and fear that you may have that have entered into, your internal space from these experiences, right? So we think about that on that level. Again, the release and let go prompt number 43 is asking us, how might practicing mindfulness support you in your journey of releasing and letting go?
So I will speak to this. I was briefly, I was actually working on this yesterday and I wrote it down. Sometimes because of certain things in your lifespan, you might have triggers. So if you're in a space where something reminds you of something that happened in your past, it can automatically kind of like take you back to that space. So one of the things that I do often, and because I practice it so much, it's literally just a matter of seconds, is take a couple of deep breaths in and I repeat, I'm safe, I survived. So it'll be 3 times, I'm safe, I survived, I'm safe, I survived, I'm safe, I survived, and then it brings me back to the present, which helps me basically, stay within, this realm situation and not release that onto if somebody didn't cut me. And then also bring me back to present so that thing doesn't keep me stuck.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. And that's a really good example of having, when we think about mantras, when we think about the different phrases that we use, a lot of times when you meditate, when we say when we practice that simple feeling your breath or noticing your breath exercise, and I'm saying I'm simply breathing in and I'm breathing out. And so sometimes you need that anchor phrase or that anchor statement, which is what Candy described. You need that to anchor you into the present moment. And sometimes those are things that even with my clients that are new moms, right, we're thinking about, sometimes I say things over and over to my son, y'all hear me say one thing at a time, son, one thing at a time, son. And when I'm saying it, I'm actually practicing my breathing, and my voice is I'm saying it in a tone, so it's helping to ground me in my breath, but it's also that mantra that is bringing me into the present moment and reminding me one thing at a time, one thing at a time, one thing at a time. So sometimes we do need to create and have those anchor statements that may have a significant meaning depending on where that is coming from. If that's coming from, Candy, you practice Buddhism, or wherever that phrase may come from. Or sometimes you can be intentional and give those things your own meaning, and when you speak that aloud, right, we know that energy can create whatever the intention is in your body as you're trying to be in the now, and as you're trying to transition from one thing to the next. So thank you for that. Anything else coming up for y'all of how practicing mindfulness can support you with that journey of releasing and letting go?
Staying focused.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it definitely helps staying focused.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Got some work done.
And reminding yourself that there is only right now.
Right.
There is only right now. And whatever I got in front of me right now, that's the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. And even thinking about releasing and letting go of that false belief that I have to get everything, done, right? Because sometimes we do put that pressure on ourselves. And I find myself like, I have these 10 things on my to-do list, and I got to get all of these things done. But if I don't start at that one thing at a time, then it's never going to be get done. I'm just going to be looking at the 10 things that need to be done. So being able to be mindful in the moment is like, what can I get done right now? What are the things that realistically I can take off of my plate? And then go from there. Okay. So we brought up a couple of different things. We talked about what those transition rituals are and how they are, important, the benefit of relieving and releasing that stress, the types of things that can be transition rituals, and how practicing mindfulness within those rituals can support you with that journey of releasing and letting go. Okay? So now let's just shift into a grief grounding practice that can be used as a transition ritual if you like. So put this one into your toolkit, okay? So I want you guys to allow for yourself to get comfortable wherever you are. And again, we're just simply feeling our breath as we're falling into that normal pattern of breathing. Just simply noticing the air flowing in and flowing out. Gently bringing awareness to your body. And remember that your breath is a healing tool. So on each inhale, you're breathing in a healing breath. And on the exhale, just release anything that doesn't serve you in this moment. So as we are aware in our bodies, if you notice any discomfort or tension or dis-ease, on the inhale, I want you to breathe in that warm, healing breath. And on the exhale, we're sending healing breaths of relief and allowing for that tension just to roll down to the ground. On the next inhale, I just want you to allow for your shoulders to rise up to your ears. So on the inhale, you're going to lift your shoulders and touch your ears. And exhale and release. I want you to just stay here for a couple of breaths. Allowing yourself to think about anything that you need to leave behind in this space. Any false thoughts about presence or expectations. Just continue to allow for your shoulders to rise up with that healing breath. And drop down on the exhale. Just imagine that you're opening up your energy to release those false thoughts. And just allow for the space for those healing rituals to come in. You're giving yourself permission to take a pause to be present. And grounded. So on that next inhale, I want you to deepen and allow for your balloon to fill up, your belly to fill up like a balloon. And hold. And release. And whenever it feels right for you, just allow for yourself to come back to the space. Continuing to breathe and notice that healing breath. I want you to take a few moments again to think about what can you leave behind in this space. And what is one intention that you want to carry forward? What is one ritual that you think will help you to be more present and grounded in your body?
So I get these feet together and I take my shoes off at the ground.
Welcome back.
That felt good.
How was that for y'all? Did that feel okay?
Yes. Great.
That's good.
Rochelle said yeah, that was great. And she's very relaxed today.
That's good. I'm glad. We just got to work on those transition rituals. So just one thing, right? It doesn't have to be, like a grand gesture. It could be 1 minute. It could be a phrase or one word, whatever you need. It could just be, this is the theme for my mom now going into her peace. She said, if I say peace, get away from me. I said, oh, okay. Right? So it can be one thing, right? Whatever comes up for you, whatever you feel is right in that moment to transition from one thing to a next, one place to the next. Remember, you are the expert and you know what you need to heal and to be present and to be grounded. All right? Give yourself that permission to pause, to notice, and to release the things that don't serve you. All right, well, I thank y'all for showing up for yourselves today. I thank you for meeting us at the well. This was a good reminder for me to slow down, especially from yesterday, child, because I was out for the count for about 3 hours. But my body was telling me that I needed to rest, and I'm so grateful that I was able to, honor myself. I'm so grateful that, I have a team and even my clients that were supportive of, the pivot. And today I feel better. Trisha gave me some juice. So take what you need. You know what's best for you. All right, see y'all.
Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.